Hello everybody, my name's Joe Quick and this is Joe's Quick Review. Today we're going to talk about the next game you could be playing. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow, maybe Overmorrow. Overmorrow is the game, developed by solo dev Pixel Manta. We are sent on a tranquil, non-violent exploration of a seemingly deserted island, our own memories also lost on the ocean waves. But one thing we know for sure, Overmorrow is coming. And it's coming in 30 days. 30 days and the game resets. All your progress lost. Is this a good gaming mechanic, or is it just an aggravation? Let's take a look and help you decide. Overmorrow has a gameplay focus on unguided exploration. This means you have to explore the world with little to no explanation of what you're supposed to be doing. After a fairly linear introduction, to familiarise you to the game mechanics, you're then given the freedom to explore the island at your leisure. Except of course, you have 30 days looming over your head and you need to find magical crystals to extend your explorative capabilities. For each crystal you find, you can cast a unique spell once per day and at the end of the day, fall asleep by the fire to restore your magic. Sleeping by the fire obviously causes the day to pass, and so the game progresses. Tranquil? Yes. Non-violent? Yes. That is until you have 10 days left. No idea how far you've actually progressed in the game, and regardless of all your attempts, you're just not advancing. My first playthrough of the game was not a successful one. This was in part because of the art style. A lot of it is open to interpretation, and it's hard to make out certain landscapes. What I thought was a snake actually turned out to be a snail. And although it seemed I couldn't fall down this hole, it turns out I was just standing in the wrong position. A number of situations like this caught me off guard. In addition to that, whilst the game is non-violent, the few elements that can burden you are a big burden. From stinging jellyfish that just don't move to black holes that appear just off screen. All that casual, enjoyable exploration at the start of the game thrown out of the window and the vein on my forehead protruding more and more. But hey, you reach your 30 days, the game resets and you start again. This time with the knowledge on your side. You know what you are doing and things are progressing well. Until they're not. You've only got 2 days left, jellyfish, black hole, restart. Third playthrough. Things are getting a bit boring now. The puzzles are the same, the scenery is the same, what was an enjoyable game is now becoming a chore. There are a few random elements that pop up here and there, and give the game a surprisingly refreshing feel, but it's not enough to compensate the complete repetition of the previous steps. And, as refreshing as they are in the long run, they can be a burden if you're trying to complete the game in a shorter time frame. Regardless, I persisted. I completed the game and as a whole I enjoyed the experience and the sense of accomplishment from solving all of the island's mysteries. You can expect a 30-day run of the game to last about 1 to 2 hours, longer if you are taking your time to explore every nook and cranny. As I mentioned before, the graphics are unique, using a triangular mosaic art style. It gives you a pixelated retro feel which looks great in a lot of places. But as the scene gets busier, it gets a lot harder to differentiate the elements on the screen. It also has a limited colour palette, so as you start to associate certain things with certain colours, it can get quite confusing. A prime example being in this cave. We have a small pool of water and some water splashing into the hole at the back. No wait, that's not a hole, it's a mole. The one thing that helps separate the mass blocks of colour and geometric shapes is the animation. It's no Pixar film, but the particle effects and little animations give it the character it needs to help distinguish the living, moving features from the much more static environment. Let's take a look at the story. You play as this black, red and white character, waking up on a beach without any memory. It is up to you to explore the island and work out what's going on. Find magic crystals to help progress the various landscapes and uncover the secrets of the island. That's pretty much it. Without giving away the ending, there isn't much more I can say. You have 30 days to achieve this, and the closer you get to Overmorrow, the more the world around you seems to fall apart. But reach day 0, and it all starts again. Is it a dream? Are you some kind of test subject? Is the island being sucked into a black hole time loop situation? Who knows? The user interface is minimal, which is ideal as we are quite zoomed in on the scene and need every inch we can get to make out what's what. In the top left, you have your magic counter, telling you which spells you can cast and how much magic you have left, and that's it. There is also a very basic menu which will let you exit the game, but I could never seem to get this open when I needed to. It's really simple and all you need. I only wish they had potentially laid the magic in the format of the controller, or put some reference next to the spells, as I often hit the wrong button for the spell I wanted to cast. The only other thing I'll mention on UI is the small interaction icons dotted around the world. These provide little insights into the world, but aren't always that visible on lighter colour backgrounds. The dialogue boxes are fairly standard text that you can just click through. You can use keyboard or controller to navigate through this game, walk around with the directional buttons, and there is one main button to trigger interactions. The only other gaming mechanic is of course the magic, so you can hold down a trigger button on the controller, or M on the keyboard, and press the corresponding button for the magic spell. The controls are very simple and ultimately don't need to be anything more, but there are areas of the game that need good navigation control, for which I found a controller to be much easier than the keyboard. The game, in its essence, is nothing more than a replay. Once you've reached the 30 days, the game resets, and if you do manage to complete the game, you can either choose to reset it or continue to absolutely nothing. Short of some subtle dialogue changes in the second playthrough, there isn't much purpose to revisit the game once complete. The only reason I can imagine that you would want to replay this game is for trophy hunting completionists. The music and the soundtrack are simple additions to the game, but altogether nicely incorporated and well suited to the game's style. It starts with a minimal chime-in, which appropriately reflects waking up and the feeling of not knowing who you are, where you are, or what's going on. This builds into a relaxing little tune as you explore the nicer areas of the island. An erratic, up-tempo melody as we're introduced to our first real threat, and a more inquisitive rhythm as we start to uncover the deeper secrets of the island. In addition to the environmental sounds such as the rushing waterfalls and audio cues for the player, the game does a great job of developing the story through its soundtrack and also adding further context to the sometimes confusing images on the screen. There doesn't seem to be any configurability options here, so the game is only available in English. The text is limited, so this may not impact the game significantly, except for the few instances where you have to answer a question. The art style already makes it difficult to differentiate elements of the game, so if you have any visual impairments, you may struggle with the style and the colours. And although this game doesn't require any fast response times, the environmental hazards can be very challenging and definitely require good motor skills to navigate these areas. Overall, the game is not particularly accessible. A quick note on the Kickstarter. Launched in April 2022, Pixel Manta were looking for $15,000 to finance this project, and they got funded $21,000, with just over 500 backers. The developer does already have a background in game development, working on some big name projects such as Sackboy, Sonic and Warhammer, so I suspect they had something of a following already. They also had some big backers, sponsoring £500 to £2,000, which gives the project a big boost in reaching that goal. Now let's take a look at the game design. Maybe it's just me, but I struggled with the buttons a little bit, often pushing the wrong one or accidentally casting a spell. As you can see, the game shows you your spells nicely stacked on the top left of the screen. From top to bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4. This works great on a keyboard. When using the controller, I had to count the buttons working clockwise to make sure I hit the right one. If you put labels next to the magic columns, then you'll impact the art style. So I think having the magic in the same format as the controller may have been a nice option here. In addition to the above, I would often mash the interaction button to skip through the dialogue, only to find out I still had my finger on the trigger button and therefore end up casting another spell. I appreciate that may be more user error than game design, but if you are creating a game, please think of the simple people like me who can't manage multitasking. Randomization in a game is a good thing, right? It keeps you on your toes, you don't know what could happen next, you can't rely on that YouTube video to give you all the answers. So why is it such a pain in this game? If you watched my walkthrough, you'll see I struggled to achieve certain goals because certain random elements of this game inhibited me from progressing as fast as I would have liked. For example, there is a manta ray which occasionally appears by the beach, which will lead you to another water crystal. But as far as I can tell, there's only a 20% chance of it being there. This doesn't stop you from progressing in the game, but it certainly slows things down. Alternatively, there are other elements such as puzzles and riddles that could be tweaked slightly to add some variety, but they are the same every time you have to play through the game, which gets really boring if you're on your third or fourth attempt. I've also mentioned several times about the art style. Whilst it does add unique visuals to the game, does the gameplay suffer for it due to the challenge of differentiating objects? Maybe for some more than others, but I feel this certainly impacts its accessibility. And my final comments have to be around the hazard scenarios. The situation in the dungeon with the tiny ledge is just ridiculous. It's almost uncomfortable to play when you have to tip-tap your way across the screen, with a very high probability of falling in the lava. If I had to guess why they made it so small, it's because the screen is quite zoomed in and they were trying to build a maze to the goal. But I feel they would have benefited greatly from making the bridge slightly bigger and expanding the map over several more screens. Black holes which will make you pass out also appear just on the edge of the screen, so there's a strong chance you'll hit one as soon as you switch between screens. And those jellyfish, my goodness. Patience is a virtue, but waiting for these things to move is a torture of its own. They need speeding up, even if it's just to offer you the opportunity to sneak by. As a final verdict, the game has some interesting features to offer. Whilst I enjoyed the puzzle element and progressing through the game, I found the 30 days reset and other parts of the game a considerable burden. Currently available on Steam and possibly coming to Switch in the near future, how fast do you think you can solve this island's riddles before Overmorrow arrives? If you've played this game, let me know your thoughts, or if you do pick up a copy and need help solving the island's mysteries, check out my walkthrough. That's it for today. Keep gaming and I'll catch you next time.